my own experience. I want to talk about some of the books in your book club, because I don't know if you remember the first time we did this interview, I read like the first 40 books in your book club, because
Oh, really?
yeah, and we talked
You
about
were
several.
committed.
I was very committed. Some of the ones that affected me the most, the one that has absolutely affected me more than any of them, is the One Thing by Gary Keller. But for me personally, I was one of these things where I had been pulled into several multitasking things. Can you talk about that book and what that book meant to you?
Yeah. So my favorite book on my list, by the way, we'll come back to it. Civilization is Discontent by Sigmund Freud.
Yes.
Now, for a practical book, yeah, I think I made Gary Keller a bestseller, because I know Gary Keller. He's a billionaire guy. And he was like, you know what? My book never sold. And he's like, 1 year it started selling. I'm like, that's when I put it on. Yeah. My website, used to be ranked number one when you typed in books. I don't know if it is anymore. But here's the thing about Gary Keller. The one takeaway, it's not so much that you have to actually look, it's not realistic that we're only going to focus on one thing. I mean, your heart has to beat, brain has to function, blood has to flow, cardiovascular. So even at the biological level, there is multitasking. The key thing to take away from the book, The One Thing, especially for entrepreneurs, is that focus on what's the domino, literally, that if you hit that domino, it kind of knocks the other multitasking things down.
Yeah.
So like for the body, for most people, the domino is enough sleep. It's for the average person, have bad sleep. So like if you could fix one thing about humans in the modern world, it's probably their sleep. We're either sleeping too late, too light, and so on and so forth. So that is an example of a domino. When you feel overwhelmed, like, there's 43 things I should do. Do I do cardio? Do I go to the gym? Do I do, vegan, or do I go paleo? Like, focus on the one thing first. If you get the sleep discipline down, then it also disciplines the kind of the neural pathways. You start to become more disciplined in other ways. The founder of jiu-jitsu, or one of the founders, he started the UFC, Florian Gracie. He's a red belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He says when he trains people and they want to get in shape, he starts with every single day, wake up and drink a glass of water. He's like, once I know they do that one thing for a week or two, then I know not only are they getting hydrated, but that discipline will now knock down the discipline of going to the gym and not eating Cheetos and all that stuff. So that's the key thing in the book. You're looking for momentum creators in life. So I have different holding companies. I'm the CEO of Retail E-commerce Ventures, which is one of my I have 7 holding companies, and that's a pretty big one. We did way more than 100 million in revenue last year. I've got 400 people, working for me around the world, in like 7 global offices. I got to wake up every day. I'm busy now. I mean, I have never been like this busy, not even close. I've got 55 deals. I'm negotiating, trying to buy other companies. Not all of them go through, so you got to negotiate a lot. So I think a lot about how do you live without being overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And so I try to go to that Gary Keller framework. I'm like, okay, today, so for today, for example, for me in business, the one domino, I'm really refining my CEO dashboard. I get an email every hour from companies that I own now, like Pier 1. And, these are pretty big brands. These are massive brands. We had 160 million visits to my website last year, probably 60, 70 million unique shoppers. These are not just like blog visits. So that's like 1/5 of America. So I got a lot. I can freaking get overwhelmed with what metric do you use? Do you use this metric, this metric, this metric? So even as an entrepreneur, what's your KPI you're optimizing for? Like some people are like, Ty, why don't you have more Instagram followers? I'm like, because it's not a KPI. In fact, I don't want to get, every time I've tried to get bigger on Instagram, every time people said to get bigger, I'm like, I like the number I'm at. It's optimized. Right. So people get too crazy. Like I got every metric has to go up. My podcast needs to go up. I need more followers. I need this. I'm like, no, what's the one metric? And there's a famous company called Danaher. It's probably the best company in the world nobody knows about unless you're a real OG in business and you've studied It's an industrial company, and they have their 7 metrics, and only 3 of them are really financial. So their one thing is actually 7, which is still, I mean, this is like 100 billion revenue company or something insane like that. What is Danaher? Look up Danaher revenue. I got Rick here helping me. So for them, their one thing is, are we optimizing as this little basket of KPIs? So one of them's like organic growth. Okay. One of them's gross margins. But they have other weird metrics that you wouldn't think of, like fill rate on the HR side. So for me, I try to learn, you brought this up, of like benchmarking what my one thing should be. So right today, I was working on perfecting my CEO dashboard. I get an email every hour on the hour, and there's a lot of stuff in it, and I want to just make sure it's hyper accurate. It's a really important thing to get.
For me, the book. So I had Jay Cutler on.
30 billion of revenue.
30 billion. Sorry. Okay. I had Jay Cutler.
Teeny company.
I had Jay Cutler on a couple of weeks ago, 4-time Mr. Olympia, and he talks about not taking before. Now he does TikToks there, but before he would not take phones, and nobody who worked out with him was allowed to take a phone to the gym. And he would talk about doing 270 reps, like he would talk about his workout when he was, training for Mr. Olympia. For me, the number one thing was when because I host several events and stuff like this. When I'm focused on the event, that's the only thing I do. No interruptions. For instance, you saw the list of 50 questions I sent you before this.
Yes.
When I did that, I was going through your previous podcast at double speed. And I was writing notes, and there was no other distractions. That was the only thing I told my friends, I was like, hey, guys, don't bother me. I'm only working on Tai Lopez questions this entire night. I did it while I was in the gym. And so that was the main thing I got from that. The other thing, like you said before, focusing on a thing lets you focus on things. And so like if you're really good about coming up with a plan or focusing on one thing, then later on, like what you said with Gracie, when he talked about if this person can focus on just being able to drink the water and have the discipline to do that every day, now I can take that discipline. It's not just, we talked about this before with the learn muscle, right? If you are able to read a book a day, it doesn't matter, like that discipline that you're going to get is going to allow you to be able to read other things and to be able to accomplish other things. So that creates a certain level of momentum. So I love that.